Hello and welcome to this video. In this one, I'm so excited to offer something that could be life-changing for any of you who are suffering with healing, who are feeling stuck. You are doing something, you have a health plan, and you've been doing it and you're not seeing the progress. Or you maybe take 2 steps forward and then you feel like you drop 3 steps back. If that is you, no matter what your health crisis or your health condition might be, this one might be just the video for you. I hope it is. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you an interview from an incredible being who I had the honor of working with. Nick has done 2 of my healing poem dances. And Nick will be sharing with you what happened to him when he did those dances. He did not do the dances. He did not dance. He simply took in the dance as medicine and then also took the course. So what am I talking about? Well, welcome if you're new here or if you're not. My name is Tumi. I am a dancer, a poet, and a medical doctor. I've been a physician now for 20 years. I'm very holistic minded, and I really believe in addressing the underlying things that are causing our dis-ease. I do that through integrating more and more my dance performance, my poetry, and my expertise as a physician. I do that through the heart medicine that is my healing poem dances and my healing poem dances courses. I now have 3, but a 4th one is coming, healing dance poem courses available. Nick will be talking about his experience with Release the Weight and Digestifier. I hope you find it helpful. He says so many beautiful pearls that might be helpful for you. And then stay tuned for what I have to share after the interview. Enjoy. So Nick, again, thank you so much for being here with me today.
You are welcome, most welcome.
So I'd love to dive in by just talking a little bit about your experiences with the poem dances. You actually, I believe, have engaged with, taken in 2 of them, Release the Weight and Digestifier. Is that true?
Yep.
Can you
Release the
share?
Weight I've actually done twice.
Oh, wow. Can you share a little bit before we dive into your experience with them about what drew you to those in the first place?
Sure. I think last year it started actually when I became interested in your website. A couple of your videos came across my way on YouTube when I was, attempting to transition from vegan to raw vegan last year. And a couple of your videos seemed unique in the way of your approach to healing. And most of what I was seeing on YouTube was related to food. So I felt like, my spirit was looking for something different. So when I watched a few of your videos, a few of them on how to stay raw vegan. You had mentioned in one of the videos that I watched that you were going to be releasing a Release the Weight program coming up in shortly after that video aired on YouTube. So I definitely was interested in that and looking for that program. So once it was released, I subscribed to it. I purchased the program. This is before I joined the Orchard. And I didn't know at the time what a poem dance was, honestly. And I didn't know anything about your holistic healing or really deep as far as what it was that you promote people to do. So when I purchased the program, I read, of course, the instructions where, you definitely describe in detail to watch specific parts first, maybe watch the video first, then watch the audio, listen to the audio. And at the time, I still didn't really know what a poem dance was when I started the Release the Weight. So I watched the video along with the poem. And at the time, I think it was actually, for me, really good that I didn't know anything about it because I had a completely open blank mind. I didn't have any expectations. There wasn't any shoulds going through my mind. And I think that can all take away from the message and the prescription that the video gives you. Because I think if we're in our mind and we're thinking, you're trying to interpret the video rather than let the video speak to you, I think that it can kind of take you away from the journey and maybe not get everything that you should be getting out of it. So when I watched the Release the Weight, I had no expectations. I didn't know what I would be watching. And so I watched it, and the video and the audio together first with completely blank mind. And I watched it. And when it was over with, I kind of just meditated a little bit on it. And I said, what is this speaking to me? And I started to have some thoughts on my own personal weight, because some of the reason that I was trying to transition from vegan to raw vegan was there was some excess weight that I wanted to lose. So the whole program definitely appealed to me because I wasn't accomplishing my goals at that time. So I was looking for something different. And when I watched the video, especially where the rock is being moved multiple times, and what that symbolized for me, and I really, I felt like I was onto something. I didn't quite know what it was at that time. So I listened to the audio by itself without the video the second time. And that's when I really started to visualize in my mind what the weight was representing in my life, what the excess weight was representing in my life. And that's when it started to really, I felt like I was really getting somewhere. And then I watched it again, the video with the audio. And that's when I really realized that my excess weight was stemming from security, and it was stemming from the trauma in my life that I had endured, that I had not quite dealt with yet. And so then after that, I watched the tutorial, which was wonderful, and the prescriptions that you give in there, which was all wonderful. And it really worked for me. And it hit my spirit in a way that nothing else had registered in my mind yet at that point. So that's when I really became, the Release the Weight honestly was the very first thing that really developed a very strong interest in your work. And that's when, I believe it was soon after that, I joined the Orchard and saw all of the other things that you had released prior to that, one of them being the digestive fire. And then there was an immunity
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
So I started to delve into all of it. And digestive fire really was wonderful for me, because gut microbiome is so important, and my digestive system, actually, I'm finding out more now, actually, it's extremely sensitive. And at that time, I didn't know how sensitive it was to certain things. And one of the things you say in the tutorial is not so much focusing on what you're eating, but what you're taking away from your diet, gluten and some of these other things. And once I started to follow that, and that poem dance was wonderful as well. And I felt like the very first time I got so much more out of that because of the Release the Weight journey that I had gone on. So the more work of yours that I've watched, the more I'm receiving from it as for my own healing journey.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that and being so eloquent. And there are a few things I wanted to clarify for those of people who might be watching who are not familiar with the poem dances. And first thing is, poem dances is a term that I created because I'm a poet, I'm a dancer, and I'm a physician. And I'm a very holistic minded physician. In my journey as a doctor, especially doing my relief work, disaster relief work in Haiti, in West Africa, I realized through my journey that my work as a dancer, because I was dancing for a dance company, and my poetry could be part of my doctor's bag, so to speak, could be part of the medicine that I have to offer. And in my knowledge, it's not out there. Like, I don't know anybody else, any other doctors who are doing poems and dances and healing, nor am I saying should it be. It's very unique to me because it's my own, I believe, divinely given gifts that I then offer because it's true to my spirit. So I just want to clarify that I'm not surprised you've never heard of poem dances before, because it's something that is something I created. And the other thing is, just to clarify for people who may have not been aware of this work, when you talk about you watch the video and then you heard the video is me dancing, and me dancing a dance that I've created specifically to instigate, to propagate, to really ignite the healing process of whoever is watching it, your own unique process. And then the audio is the poem. So the poem is a soundtrack. So when you talk about you watch it and you just listen to the audio, you are just listening to the poetry. And I find that so beautiful. And I thank you for following my guidance around that, because I do walk you through how to take the dance in. And I loved how things just clicked in a way that you said hadn't registered before, which is part of why I was so pulled to doing this, Nick, because I feel like I know deeply that art, whether it's poetry or dance, especially when it's given the intention, the humble intention that it's healing, can just open up the spirit, open up the heart, open up healing in a way that just knowing logical things never can. And so I love that that was your experience. If it's what I heard, is that something clicked for you. You were able to make the link to trauma. And then you were then able to receive the tutorial. The tutorial is the second portion of the healing dance courses. This is when I then give holistic strategies and practical tips. So I really loved what you shared there. And I'm curious to know if you're able to say, as you were going through Release the Weight and then Digest to Fire, can you speak to maybe what you feel like maybe set these things apart from other, I don't know, offerings you've received in the past around weight loss, weight release, or digestive issues? How were these offerings, the poem dances, different for you?
Sure. So they're different for me because most of the prior to the attempt to go raw vegan, most of the weight loss routes that I was taking were omissions of your diet or calorie restriction. And you need to change this, you need to change that. This was more of a receiving, and the best way I can explain it without the first thing that comes to mind, because I you know how I'm brutally honest, and for those people that are religious and you go to church and you received the bread of God, you're not, it's not an omission of anything. You're receiving something in your spirit, and it's different for everybody. So this was more of not focusing on changes so much that I need to make, because there was some in the tutorial, but as far as the actual poem dance itself, it was a receipt of beauty. And the reason I say that is because going further since then, for those of you that don't know, you have several poem dances in small excerpts on Instagram, in YouTube. And there was one recently where you had, forgive me, I can't remember the artist's name, but the song was Speak Now. Oh. And it was a very small poem dance you had on Instagram. Leslie and then you released it a little bit. Yes. And you have several of those amongst all of your work. So we have these large projects, but then there's smaller ones once somebody is really following your work, and they all promote this meditation of your spirit in that moment. And I feel like the larger ones, Release the Weight, Digest to Fire, Release the Weight I've done twice now, they become companions because our lives change. My life is much different now. I think actually it's almost been a full year since I've done Release the Weight, and my life is different now so much more than it was last year. So now when I do that Release the Weight again, which I just did maybe a month and a half ago again, the receipt of what I'm getting is a little bit different than what I got last year. And next year, if I do it again, it may be even more so different. And so I think that that is really what I got the most out of it, was a lifelong companion that I can always turn to when I'm feeling the desire to do that. And it may not even be, I may not even have necessarily a bunch of weight that I want to lose, but maybe there's some healing that I want to do that I got from that program. And Digestive Fire was the same thing. It's all healing work, and it really just nourishes your spirit in ways that some of these other programs just can't do. And I think I mentioned it in the beginning. If you truly have an open mind and don't have any judgments, don't have any preconceived notions about it or shoulds going on in your mind, or trying to figure out what's going on in the video rather than just letting it speak to you, I think that you would get the most out of it. That's truly where I had to turn that off in my mind, because I think as humans, we all have the tendency to judge. We all have the tendency to logically try to figure out things. Well, why is this happening? Why is anything happening? Weather, everything. So to turn that off in our head can be difficult. So I think that that's where we can truly get all of the healing from it, if we're able to do that.
That is so beautifully said. This idea of the lifetime companion, and that was part of my hope with these, is that to really honor each individual, to not be prescriptive or general, to meet each person where they are. And that's what I think art can do in a way, again, just logic can't always do, because art involves you to interpret. And when you do that, that's you using your own wisdom, your own lens, your own special lens. And so then the medicine becomes alchemized to fit you in that time in your life. Like you said so beautifully, that same medicine might be different, just as potent, but even different for you a year later as Release the Weight is. So I love that you're saying all of that, Nick. And I love this idea of also the idea of receiving. You said it so eloquently also, this idea that releasing judgment and my movement, the way I move, and even the poetry can be different from what people are used to. And it's unique and it's authentic to me, but I also come to appreciate that because it's different, it actually helps people to drop the ego, to drop the judging mind, to, something they see it and they're like, what's going on? And then they have to release that. And then heart opens, mind opens, and that's how medicine can come in. So I think you said it really beautifully, and thank you for sharing that experience.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I think that you actually just I just thought of another thing, especially with the Digestive Fire. And I think that, like you had mentioned, this idea of letting these things go. And I think giving your brain a rest. And I think that especially with the Digestive Fire, and I think that it's mentioned a little bit in the tutorial, like giving different parts of our body and systems a break is part of the healing, I think. And it's so important. It's so important to just, not have preconceived ideas going on in your mind.
I love that. Can you share a few of the benefits that you received from taking in Digestive Fire and Release the Weight? You came with sort of an idea, maybe some health goals. What shifted positively that you can share about?
Absolutely. So definitely Digestive Fire specifically, I can honestly say I am so much more connected with my digestive system than I ever was before. And I think that listening to your body is so important with healing in general. And one of the things that I've learned from our work together, but this specifically, the whole program, the poem dance, and then the tutorial and following along and following the guidelines really has helped me listen to my body. And now, when I eat something or am not eating something that I need to eat, it my body tells me you don't want to do that. That isn't good. Or this is what you need. If I'm having a craving for greens, I want salad. All of those types of things I wasn't listening to for the longest time. And my digestive system was all over the place. You can be, as you know, you can be vegan and you cannot be, doesn't necessarily mean you're a healthy vegan. So, some of the processed things, soy is something I don't eat anymore. All different things which are specific to me. And I'm not, I don't necessarily believe soy is bad. It's just doesn't work for me. So I think that Digestifier really helped me fine tune what it is that my body needs and what I need to do outside of my body to make sure that what's going on inside my body is working at its optimal level. And I just wasn't in tune with any of those things, and it wasn't syncing together to make me a complete whole. I'd have good days and I would have bad days, and I really just didn't know what I was doing wrong, I guess, or what I needed to do better. And I think that whole program truly helped that. And I'm definitely eternally grateful for that, because once we can be that connected with our body, and I think that's when we can truly start to really heal. At least for me, that's was one of the turning points for me. Release the weight. The biggest benefit from that is, for me specifically, was to really address my trauma. And that was the turning point for me. And realizing that, yes, I want to lose this weight, but I was going about it in a whole different way that was not working for me prior to that. And that is, I was looking at the superficial weight and trying to address that. Okay, do I need to exercise more? Do I need to cut my calories? Do I need to change my food? And all along, it was internal emotional trauma that I had when I was younger in my life that I needed to address. And once I did that, once I started to do that, because it's been a year since I'm still doing it. Once I started to do that, that's really what turned it for me. And one of the things that released the weight, I look back on Release the Weight, because one of the things we talked about in our one-on-one was me weighing myself. Mm-hmm. And that was something I did for years. And now I can honestly say I don't. It's very, very rarely that I do. And this was a every other day type of thing when I started Release the Weight program. And I was so concerned with how much I weighed. And that became the focal point of my ambition. And I wasn't getting anywhere. I was like one of those hamsters on a wheel that was just going around and around. So Release the Weight turned that for me and started to help me realize that my weight personally was something that I had to heal, was something internally that I had to heal. And once I was able to start doing that, I became so much happier with who I was as a person, how much I weighed. And then I was able to look at my food a little bit differently and realize that some of the things I was eating, trying to put this into the right words, I don't believe restriction is a way of solving anything for me. It has never worked for me. It may work for some other people, but for me, it just does not work. And when I looked at the food, some of the foods that I was fully aware of that I was eating that were not good for me, to say, you know what, I'm just not going to eat them anymore. You're still not quite fixing the problem of why you're eating the foods in the first place. And then all that ends up happening is your shadow starts to come up and, starts to give you thoughts of where you want to eat those foods because you're restricting them, rather than trying to figure out, why am I eating this food in this moment? And Release the Weight really started that train of thought in my mind. And the poem dance is so important part of these programs. I don't believe that, the tutorial is wonderful in itself, but they complement each other so well. And then there's other times, like I was saying earlier, where you have poem dances, very small poem dances without tutorial, and they're so beautiful, and there's so much that you can get from them as well without even any tutorial. So they were both big turning points in my healing journey.
Thank you, Nick. I feel like so much of what you just shared is going to be resonant with many people. When you talk about the weight, it's been also my experience as a physician now of 20 years that the restrictive mindset long term just usually does not work in terms of healthy weight release. I see people do it and then they come back and the weight comes back, or they're just miserable. It's like a lifelong, and it's not mired in self-love. And you talk about watching the dance and that stone and how something clicked about it being about trauma. Most people, when weight comes on, excess weight, it's something beyond just the food that's going into their mouths. And again, I think that the dance, the poetry, the art can help unlock and help you see maybe something that you weren't able to see before. And I think you talked about it so beautifully. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add about your experiences with the poem dances? Anything at all you'd want to share?
Yes, you just mentioned the stone, and I just had another thought that came across my mind. I think that art specifically, for example, when we go to a museum, we look at a painting, and you and I both may look at the same painting and have two different perspectives on it, and two different messages or ideas that we receive from it. And I think symbolism is important. And one of the things in your Release the Weight video was that it's not just a small pebble you're carrying, it's actually a large stone. And I think that for me, that symbolizes an anchor in my life that weight was. And in order to release that anchor, just like a boat needs to release that anchor, you have to slowly pull it up and figure out. And as you know, if you've ever been on a boat, sometimes the anchor gets a snag and you can't pull it up. So for me, the large stone that you had in that video immediately symbolized weight as an anchor for me. And how am I going to slowly get that up? And recognizing that it was, anchoring me down, rather than looking at the weight as just a superficial pounds on your body. So that's just something I had just thought of as you mentioned the video.
Poetic. Love it. Thank you, Nick, so much for sharing this, really.
I really hope you enjoyed what Nick had to share, and I'd love to hear from you. If you can leave in the comments below something you took away from the interview, I love to read your comments. I want to share now about Crown. Crown is the newest healing poem dance course that I'm going to have available for you. You can already sign up if you know that this is something you're interested in. What is it about? It's all about health and scalp issues, healing that naturally. If you're somebody who's struggling with any health conditions around your hair and your scalp, this one is for you. If you're somebody who wants to cut down on time and expense with hair management, this one is for you. If you're somebody who wants to feel free in your body and with your hair, heal your relationship around your hair, this one is for you. And if you're somebody who wants just to deepen in self-love, including honoring and embracing your unique crown, and also understanding its incredible connection to the cosmos, I know, really, this one is for you. It's not for everyone, but if anything that I just shared in the past couple of minutes sounds like you, I invite you to go ahead and click on the pre-registration button link in the description box down below. Crown is available very, very soon. And for those first 50 people who register, or 100 people who register, pre-register, the first 100 people are going to get a Q&A session with me, a group Q&A session in which you have a Zoom call with me in which I answer your questions and dive deeper into the subject of how to heal hair and scalp naturally and deepen in self-love. I've been a physician for over 20 years, trained in internal medicine. I did additional training in dermatologic diagnosis. I have had my own personal journey around self-love and having and rocking a crown that I love and that is vibrantly healthy. I bring all that to the table, as well as my dance and my poetry, humbly to help you love, heal your crown. So click on the link down below if you are interested. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Share it with anyone you think might enjoy or find it valuable. I send you love. You can probably hear the sea in the background here from the Canary Islands, wherever in the world you might be. Take care.